Welcome to our first lecture on the social effects of electronic media. Today we're going to be looking at statistics as they apply to effects of electronic media, as well as some communication theories. And in next lecture we're going to look at some of the impact of violence in media and the impact on children. Now, when we talk about the effect of electronic media, some food for thought would be a quote from a very wise quote from a Nigerian author, Ben Okri. He says, "To poison a nation, poison its stories. A demoralized nation tells demoralized stories to itself." This is what I want you to really pay attention to. Beware of storytellers who are not fully conscious of the importance of their gifts and who are irresponsible in the application of their art. People have long assumed that spending so much time with electronic media simply had to have some kind of impact, whether good or bad. And such assumptions take on practical significance when policy decisions are based on imagined or real media impact. Art, of which media is a form, is meant to have some kind of impact. Whether it succeeds in its intended impact is another story. But for those of us who think that media simply has no impact, consider how advertising companies work to specifically target certain audiences with tailor-made messages. Where we get into the gray area is when we start talking about how media may or may not cause a certain action. So we're talking about media impact, and we're talking about correlations versus causes. We're going to get into the distinctions in just a bit. But keep that in the back of your mind, correlation of media impact versus causes. Okay? When we talk about statistics and research when it comes to media impact, we have to sort of keep our minds open. We have to take it with a grain of salt. A gentleman named Patty Chayefsky, a very popular writer and media analyst, said television is a menace that everyone loves to hate, but can't seem to live without. So we ask ourselves, to what extent does TV and media influence real life? Millions of dollars, possibly even billions, are spent each year to study the effects of media on society. Much of the resulting data is distilled into statistics. And sometimes we think that statistics are these unassailable, unimpeachable things that can't be questioned. If it's a statistic, then it must be true. Well, professional researchers and statisticians use the term correlation to describe two events that appear to occur together in a systematic way, but don't provide evidence that one is the direct result of the other. So an example, and we have a great little quote here by Mr. Mark Twain, a very famous American author, who refers to statistics as damned lies. Now, we were talking about correlation and how that in correlation we have two events that appear to occur together, two or more events that appear to occur together in a systematic way, but don't actually provide evidence that one is the direct result of the other. And what we're talking about here, we see a correlation between drowning and ice cream cones. As the purchase of ice cream cones goes up, so does the number of drownings. So does that mean that one causes the other, that the purchase of ice cream cones actually causes drownings? No, there is a correlation because of summertime. Summertime is when more ice cream cones are purchased, and summertime is when more people are actually swimming, and so there's your correlation. Just because the two incidents rise and appear to relate to one another doesn't mean they're actually caused by one another. So misinterpreting correlation for causation can lead to false conclusions about genuine effects. Now, the focus of much research when it comes to media impact, there's four main categories that researchers tend to hone in on. Who is the media being sent by? Okay, when we talk about gatekeepers, we were talking about the sources and shapers of media content, such as the FCC or network executives who do the programming, or news producers who decide what stories get to air. Who controls what is broadcast? That's the who in the research. The what focuses on content analyses. For example, how much violence is in a program. Content analysis categorizes, counts, and interprets message and media content. Another focus is which channel. Different channels have different effects on audiences. And in this case, the term channel actually refers to any type of transmission device or platform, not just a specific TV channel. Another focus is to whom is the message being sent? Who's your audience? There's a great deal of focus on the effect of TV on children. Demographics can come into play, of course. And then all four of these focuses hone in on with what effect as the ultimate result of all four of these categories. What is the outcome of the communication? Okay, so the who, the what, the which channel, and to whom all go together and are wrapped up in with what effect, or what is the outcome of that communication. In theories of communication, we have what is known as opinion leaders, who are those who are active media users and interpret the meaning of media messages or content for others. The theory in this case is that the media often passes through leaders to followers rather than to all individuals directly. Opinion leaders are those who the media influences them first, and then they in turn influence followers, sort of a two-step flow. With selective exposure, people pay attention to the messages that fit their opinions. Users use media to reinforce their views. So it's not easy necessarily to change a person's mind by way of electronic media just because of selective exposure. Okay, people pay attention to the messages that fit their opinions more than they pay attention to those that do not fit their opinions. They tend to ignore ideas that don't necessarily fit into their worldview.